Prime Minister Narendra Modi's landmark visit to Ukraine amid the ongoing conflict assumes a lot of significance. Modi's visit to Kyiv will be the first by an Indian Prime Minister since bilateral relations began over 30 years ago. His visit to Ukraine, also his first since the start of the war, comes at a very crucial time, as Kyiv's troops push further into Russian territory in a shock military offensive that has stunned Kyiv's closest allies. Before Kyiv, Prime Minister Modi will be in Poland on the 21st and 22nd of August, which is also historic, as it is the first such trip by an Indian Prime Minister to the country in 45 years. Poland is also one of Ukraine's strongest allies, with its Prime Minister Tusk calling the Ukraine-Russia war a fight between quote-unquote good and evil. Modi has repeatedly called for a ceasefire in Ukraine without condemning Russia's ground invasion. India has also abstained from all resolutions on Ukraine at the United Nations and has consistently pushed for dialogue and diplomacy as a way to resolve the war with Russia, while not really condemning Moscow or joining Western sanctions against Vladimir Putin, trying to balance ties with both the West and Russia at a very difficult time. Prime Minister Modi had met Zelensky in Italy along the sidelines of the G7 summit. Last month, he met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. According to Tanmay Lal, senior official at the Ministry of External Affairs, Modi's visit will provide an opportunity for the two leaders to discuss cooperation in defense, economic and business ties, science, technology and other sectors. Prime Minister Modi's trip to Ukraine comes a month after Zelensky criticized his two-day visit to Moscow in July, when he met with Putin on the day that Russian missiles struck across Ukraine, killing scores of people. Zelensky had described the meeting as quote-unquote huge disappointment and a devastating blow to peace efforts to see the leader of the world's largest democracy hug the world's most bloody criminal in Moscow on such a day. Zelensky also chided Modi for hugging Putin during that meeting. Prime Minister Modi didn't really address the strikes directly during that trip, but he did say solutions to conflict are unlikely to come through war and rather peace, stressing on the importance of dialogue and diplomacy to resolve the ongoing conflict. India has avoided condemning Russia's invasion and instead has urged Russia and Ukraine to resolve the conflict through diplomacy. In fact, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal in June 2023, the Indian Prime Minister said India was on the side of peace, saying, and I quote, "Some people say that we are neutral, but we are not neutral. We are on the side of peace. All countries should respect international law and the sovereignty of countries." However, the United States has raised concerns repeatedly over India's relationship with Russia, especially at a time when Washington has been seeking to strengthen ties with New Delhi as a potential counterweight to China. India has faced a lot of pressure from the West as well to distance itself from Moscow after Russia invaded Ukraine. Just to give some context, Russia has been India's largest weapons supplier since the Soviet Union days. However, India has also been seeking other options as the Ukraine war has impacted Russia's ability to supply munitions and spares. India is the world's largest buyer of Russian arms and has sought to capitalize on cheaper Russian oil as the US and European countries seek to limit the Russian energy sector access to the global marketplace. Interestingly, ahead of Prime Minister's visit to Ukraine on Friday, the Russian naval chief is in India to explore new avenues to further strengthen maritime cooperation between Moscow and New Delhi. But Prime Minister Modi's visit to Ukraine is a big moment for Indians living in the country as well. A small, vibrant Indian community that lives in Ukraine composes mostly of business professionals in the fields of pharmaceuticals, IT, engineering, medicine and education, and around 18,000 students, mainly studying medicine. India did carry out Operation Ganga to evacuate 18,282 Indian nationals back to India after the war broke out through 90 flights. Out of these, 76 were commercial and 14 from the Indian Air Force in February and March 2022. Prime Minister Modi's visit may seek to cool off the two countries currently strongly opposed to India's long-term friendship with Russia. While the West has been asking Prime Minister Modi to use his good offices with President Vladimir Putin to stop the present aggression, the visit to Warsaw and Kyiv just might help Prime Minister Modi interact one-to-one and also understand the dynamics and concerns on the other side. For long now, India has felt that this war has been instigated by NATO, just trying to get Ukraine into its fold, and by the arms lobby in the US. However, while trying to act as a mediator, Prime Minister Modi will also concentrate on bilateral issues such as increased trade. India sees both countries as a market for Indian products and trade. In turn, India also needs support in defense products, especially aircraft and marine engines from Ukraine. Undoubtedly, the Prime Minister's visit to Ukraine is a pivotal moment in India's global diplomacy, which underscores India's commitment to playing a more active role in seeking peaceful resolutions and maintaining its strategic interests.